Today, stocks turned in their third winning session in a row. The Dow closed at 15,224. Share volume, 3.5 billion shares. There wasn't much news to propel stocks today, so investors seemingly conjured memories of Friday's superb jobs report and rosy visions of the earnings season to come. The Dow, off its high for the session, shot up 89 points. The Nasdaq added 5. The S&P 500 was up 8. The Russell 2000 index of smaller stocks closed at a record today of 1,009. As for that earnings season, Alcoa kicked it off today after the bell, and the numbers were pretty good. Excluding special items, the aluminum giant beat analyst estimates, and Alcoa made 7 cents a share. At edged forecasts by a penny, it saw a slight beat on revenue, too, even though sales were down a little bit compared with last year. Now, despite weak aluminum prices, Alcoa benefited from increased demand for its metals from auto and aircraft manufacturers.
So how do things look for the aluminum giant for the rest of the year? That was my first question to Alcoa CEO Klaus Kleinfeld when I talked with him a short while ago.
Well, we do see that there are bright lights in the world. I mean, if you want to talk about region, I mean, we see that the U.S. is continuing to grow. I think we're talking about a growth of 2%, probably accelerating even in the second half of the year. Bright spots in some areas like aerospace, automotive, and potentially building and construction, trucks and trailers doing better also than we thought before. So that's good. Europe is kind of muddling through. And China, I continue to be optimistic, probably something around 7.7% GDP growth. So that's kind of the worldview.
But despite those bright lights, Klaus, you have been forced to cut back on some of your capacity. You announced 2 plant closings in this latest quarter. Are we going to be hearing about more of those kinds of closings? Is there more to come?
Well, we are faced with a pressure on the metal price in the upstream side, and therefore we're taking the respective steps and curtailing, restructuring, and closing plants. At the same time, we're also growing our value-add businesses. On the automotive side, this is now the second expansion that we're doing. The first one was in Davenport. The second one now is in Tennessee. And the orders basically are already there for this, even though the plants have yet fully opened. We are expanding on the aerospace side with 3 investments, one in Pittsburgh that we just finished, the second one we're doing in Kitts Green in England, and the third one in Lafayette in Indiana. So there's a lot also going on the growth side.
You know, Klaus, there's been a lot of talk, and I'm sure you've heard it, about the Federal Reserve cutting stimulus out of the economy. When that happens, will that help or hurt Alcoa's business?
Well, look, I mean, that's a complicated one because I believe it will only happen, as Bernanke and other Fed presidents have said, if the recovery of the economy is stable and strong. A stable, strong recovery of the economy will help Alcoa on the upstream as well as on the downstream side. So in light of that, I think in the end it will be the right thing if done with the respective moderation and not leading to a disruption in the marketplace.
Well, let me put it this way. Looking at business conditions under that scenario with the Federal Reserve moving out of the economy, will you feel comfortable still about adding jobs? Because Alcoa has been adding jobs over the last year or two.
Well, we have been adding jobs in those businesses that grow, automotive, aerospace, even building and construction. But we also had to restructure on some other ends around the world. So we see this mixed picture there. But in the main, if you particularly look at the U.S., the recovery is clearly underway here.
I want to ask you a little bit about Alcoa stock. It has been a tough time for investors. They've seen the stock drop sharply, and it has been the worst performer in the Dow. I'm sure you don't like hearing that, but what do you think it's going to take? What's going to be the catalyst to get this stock to move higher?
Well, I believe that we have to concentrate on those things that we really can control to add value. And the things that we can control is we are growing our value-add businesses, putting a lot of innovation in there. If you look at the year to date, the value-add business already makes 57% of all of our revenues and accounts for 80% of the profitability of Alcoa. So it's a major driver of Alcoa, and it has a lot of growth prospects. These are all good things, and eventually, when we create this value, I think the shareholders will also recognize that.